Remember Pokemon Go? That mobile game phenomenon that took over the world for like a month and then seemingly vanished into thin air? How the hell did that happen and why did it have the impact it did, despite not even cracking the top 50 most played mobile games of all time looking back at it? In order to find that out, we need to head back in time, back to 2016, which was a crazy year filled with extraordinary events that would alter the future timeline forever, like Trump winning the US election, Britain deciding to social distance himself from Europe, and Harambe dying, solidifying him into the pantheon of meme culture. But when I think back of 2016, the first thing that comes to my mind is the release of a single mobile game. Pokemon Go. I mean, the first few weeks after its release were so crazy. People were running wild in the streets, chasing Pokemon and alerting other people where to find them, and unlikely friendships and groups were created along the way. Groups of such a diverse social, ethnic and age-wise makeup that it's kinda mind-boggling. I mean, it was a genuine sight to behold. Everyone and their grandmother was playing Pokemon Go in almost the literal sense of the saying. But how did we get there? Well, it actually started before that, in 2014, when Nintendo's Satoru Iwata and the Pokemon company's Tsunekazu Ishihara, yes, I probably butchered those names, but these two men came together and collaborated with Google to make the Google Maps Pokemon Challenge. It was announced and presented on the official Google Maps YouTube channel, where it got millions of views and the hype around it was kinda real. Until we all realized that it was just an April Fool's joke. Yeah, people were bummed out. I mean, I was bummed out, and I probably hadn't played a Pokemon game in over 10 years at that point. But still, Pokemon was one of, and probably still is, one of the greatest forms of video game nostalgia for me and probably a lot of others born in the 90s. And seeing that the games and the media surround it are still relevant to this day, that probably goes also for a lot of newer generations. Luckily, the disappointment was short-lived, because on September 9, 2015, an announcement would drop that would restart the hype train all over again. Pokemon Go got an official announcement trailer on the official Pokemon YouTube channel, yes, that is the real name of the channel, saying that the game would come, and it would come in 2016, months away at that point. The hype was back, and that whole April Fool's thing was probably just a way to gauge if there would be actual interest, actual hype for such a game. And there was. So 2016 came around, and in July of that year, chaos ensued. Pokemon Go released first in the United States, Australia and New Zealand on the 6th of July, and by the 6th of August it had released in the majority of the world, where it seemingly had overtaken society everywhere it landed. Now, the gameplay was pretty simple at release. You walk around in the real world, try to find Pokemon on your phone, you see them on your phone, you swipe to throw a Pokeball and you catch him. Maybe you throw in a lure to lure in more Pokemon, and that's about it. Now, I could go into the nuances and technical aspects of the game, like the whole development process by Niantic and what kind of profits Nintendo and Niantic made. That's not what sticks with me the most. What sticks with me the most is its cultural and social impact. Like I said, literally everyone and their grandmother was playing Pokemon Go. Parks were filled with people of all walks of life, from children to grandparents, men, women and everyone within and outside of that spectrum, people from different cultures, religions, ethnicity, skin color, whatever it was. It was a phenomenal sight to behold. I mean, Pokemon in itself was already a global phenomenon for nearly 2 decades at that point. But the franchise coming to the mobile platform, combined with this whole augmented reality thing, really forced the community to come together and interact with each other, only strengthening this whole sense of working together and community. I mean, you had to go outside to play a game. They literally made you touch grass. What also helped is that if you would catch a Pokemon, this didn't mean that another player couldn't catch that Pokemon anymore. So there was no real PvP aspect in terms of catching a Pokemon. And people were inclined to actually help each other, which only helped into creating this sense of community and working together. I mean, I remember vividly being outside with a group of friends in the city center at like 11 p.m. when suddenly a car comes rolling up with screeching tires, parking half on the sidewalk, half on the road, and like 4 shady-ass guys stepped out of the car. In any normal situation, you would think, okay, we're getting robbed or something, like what the fuck is going on here? But no, as it turned out, they heard that there would be an onyx somewhere in the near vicinity. So we ended up grouping all together, searching for this onyx, which was nowhere to be found eventually. Like we were walking around for like an hour and a half together with all these people we've never seen, and it was kinda wholesome. I mean, I've never seen or felt this sense of widespread community ever. Not before that, not after that. It felt like this was genuinely the closest we've ever come to achieving world peace somehow. Which is insane, especially looking at how things are today, where it seems like we're heading for a full-blown culture war at this point. But that doesn't mean that Pokemon Go didn't have its problems. Like I said, there was chaos.
A distracted driver puts 2 people in the hospital after he drives right onto a sidewalk in Dunedin. Deputies tell us that the man took his eyes off the road because he was playing Pokemon Go on his phone.
You see, the release of Pokemon Go also sparked some discussions about road safety. Remember those shady guys that I mentioned earlier? That suddenly pulled up on the side of the road to find and catch an Onix? It was funny, it was wholesome, but it's not actually like safe road behavior. There were numerous reports on car accidents caused by drivers that were more focused on playing the game than actually abiding to the rules of traffic, and pedestrians that were so busy chasing Rattatas that they ignored all traffic around them. But traffic was only one aspect that wasn't really compatible with this whole hype train. There were instances of rare Pokemon spawns that caused massive crowds to come together, obstructing everything in the near vicinity, sometimes even causing a genuine stampede. Like here in Taiwan, this sometimes caused significant damage to parks and other public spaces, and people were wandering in groups into police stations, hospitals, memorials and such. Now needless to say that the people that actually worked in those places weren't all too happy about that. It has been speculated by a study from the Purdue University that in the first year after release, players have caused between $2 and $7 billion in damages in the United States alone, which is insane. Now of course it says speculated, and I have absolutely no means of verifying this information. So we gotta have to take the word of the Purdue anniversary.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
University. But nonetheless, looking back at it and seeing the hype and craze around it, you can imagine it, but it's batshit insane that it sounds plausible. But aside from the public chaos, this game also spawned somewhat of a... Like I said, literally everyone was playing Pokemon Go. Criminals were no exception to that. There were instances of people with nefarious intentions setting up lures or just posting up near known Pokemon hotspots in order to rob unsuspecting players. And sometimes these things escalated. I mean, there's an actual website called Pokemon Go Death Tracker. Let that sink in. And this website, like the name suggests, tracks the deaths of people playing Pokemon Go and other instances. Some of the things on there are just wild. Now, despite the insane popularity of this game, there was a sudden moment where it seemed like it had died overnight. Pokemon Go peaked immediately after its release in the summer of 2016, where it had a peak daily active user count of 45 million players globally. But this number started to drop in the end of the summer, and by the time December had come around, estimates say that the daily active user count went as far down as 5 million. Although these numbers aren't officially publicized, so it's just an estimation. But it was very obvious that the hype train was coming to a standstill. And there seemed to be several reasons. Firstly, the game wasn't that fleshed out at release. Like I said, the gameplay loop was really simple. You walk around, find Pokemon, throw the Pokeball and catch the Pokemon. With the only additions to that being the hatching of eggs and placement of lures and that kind of stuff. Some gameplay components players were expecting just weren't there at release. You couldn't trade Pokemon and you couldn't play player versus player battles. It was very limited what you could do with the Pokemon you had actually caught. And on top of that, the amount of Pokemon that were to be found was very limited. Despite there being over 700 in canon at that time, it released with just the Gen 1 Pokemon. On top of that, the novelty of this whole augmented reality and this whole mobile experience was also quickly wearing off for quite a big chunk of the player base. And the mobile game market is very competitive. It was back then, and it only got more competitive over time. And if you put all these factors together, it's obvious that it culminated in a steep decline for probably one of, if not the most impactful mobile game releases ever. But despite its drop-off, Pokemon Go just kept on going. You see, ages later, the game is still very much alive and kicking. Niantic, the developers, kept developing and updating the game for its hardcore player base, adding all the remaining generations of Pokemon, adding the option to battle other players, trading Pokemon between players, and a whole slew of types of raids to be played with the community. Niantic also invested in tons of events where you can get special Pokemon, fight special raid bosses, and get other extra bonuses. Remember that daily user count at the end of 2016 of about 5 million that was estimated? Well, today it's estimated to hover between 5.8 and 6.2 million active daily users, with about 81 million players logging in at least once a month and about 500,000 concurrent players at any given time. I mean, that's a form of consistency that most other video games can only dream of, especially 8 years after release. Even if you search Pokemon Go on YouTube, you will find quite a lot of channels solely dedicated to Pokemon Go with tons of views and subscribers, and on Google it still has about 3 million searches each month, which, although but a fraction of the 165 million searches of 2016, is still a very substantial number. I mean, it's trading blows with the likes of PUBG, which consistently ranks in the top 5 most played games on Steam and also has a very big mobile presence on top of that. So yeah, this community is still very much alive, but you will have to look for it. And for a normie like me, this whole game just feels like a distant memory. A weird memory, but a very wholesome memory. Like I said before, the connection that I saw between people of all walks of life is something that I have never seen before and have never seen after that. And yes, I know I'm looking back at it through rose-tinted glasses, but still, that first month of Pokemon Go truly felt like that's the closest we've ever been to achieving world peace. And I'm not gonna lie, I really miss that feeling. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was long overdue having the channel name that I have, that I'd make a video about Pokemon. But if you did like the video, a sub to the channel would be amazing. I usually make videos about whatever pops up in my mind, but mostly video game related stuff. So yeah, hope to see you guys next time. Bye.